Well, hi everyone. Welcome to another KRT Talks. And tonight we have another great guest along for you tonight. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce this lady like this. She's affectionately known as the Kata Queen. She is a technician of the highest level, former World Kata champion, multiple British Kata champion. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you, Shihan Janine Davies.
Woohoo!
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
No, it's great. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, definitely. Before we go and start the full show, we would like to thank all of the sponsors and the people that just support us. The Marshall Way over here, Webster's Media, KRT, One Kyokushin, the Kyokushin Shuffle, KRTalks, the Drew Experience, and Luke Optique. Hopefully soon there's gonna be some more. But thanks for all the support, thanks for all the love, and all the people who train with us, who are in our session, who follow us, who like us, who share us. We are here because of you guys. So thanks. And that's a good thing as well, because she's sitting over here for me, but she's in our session all the time. So it's really good to have you here.
How did we manage to pull that off? I don't know.
Told you, even an instructor for the last 12 months. You two have been my sanity. So thank you.
Saying something.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
So Janine, as always, I'm going to start at the beginning. Where did it all start for you? What got you into martial arts, and what was your inspiration for Kyokushin?
Right, I'm going to disappoint you now. There was no inspiration for Kyokushin. There was no inspiration for karate whatsoever. I was the little short fat kid in school that hated any form of exercise. So I'm sorry to start on a bad note, but yeah, I was the fat one in school, and actually in school my nickname was Blubber.
Oh, that's a bit harsh.
But it's true. And my brother started a local karate club in our local sports centre, and I was going, because obviously I was only 9 years old. My brother was 7. My mother was taking me with them to watch him train, and she kept saying, "Why didn't you join in? You know, have a go." And wasn't interested at all because I just didn't like exercise. And eventually, she convinced me to join in, and I joined in. My brother was really, really talented, and in fact. One thing that my instructor at the time said to my mother was, "Your son's really, really talented. If he sticks at this, he's going to do really well. I don't know why you pay for your daughter, but if you keep giving me money, I'll keep teaching her, because I've got no natural talent at all." And then my brother got to green belt, and like a lot of kids who've got a lot of natural talent, they get to green belt, and it becomes quite difficult for everybody. From green belt on, it's quite difficult. You can get up to green belt on natural ability, but then everybody has to start working. And like a lot of other kids, he stopped at green belt, and yellow belt for me was the time when I thought, I really like this. There's something about this. But I got to be honest, until I was probably 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, I wasn't really, I did about 2 years where I didn't want to give up, but actually I didn't really want to go either.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I just did it. And then, I won an award in the karate club. It was the 1983, so I would have been 11, Most Improved Junior Student Award.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and I remember thinking, perhaps I'm not as bad as I think I am. And from that time on, it was like a turning point in my karate career. And then all of a sudden I started having goals. I started having aspirations within karate that I'd never had before. And I think I started feeling a little bit more confident in myself as a person, as well as in my karate.
Oh, wow. Look, I'll tell you first thing, you've just proved the definition of never judge a book by its cover. And secondly, what I know you for, and I suppose if a lot of people don't, I'm going to say it right now, you're one of the most committed students ever. You train every single day, every day of your life. So again, where do you said you had goals. I want to find out, did you set those personal goals for yourself? Did someone give you that goal? How did you get into your beautiful work ethos?
No, it's just, I think I got a yellow belt and I won that award in 1983. And I set 2 goals for myself. The first was to be the first female knockdown fighter, because in those days, women did not fight knockdown at all.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be the first female knockdown fighter. And I said, one day I will be a Shihan. And
wow.
I wasn't aware of any female Shihans in the world at that time. So I wanted to be a Shihan.
And you set that at Yellow Bell. Well, how old was you, Janine?
11.
Phenomenal. What a phenomenal time.
Was you the first female Shihan in IFK at least?
No, Shihan Ruth Naplin, I think.
Yeah, I thought that was the case.
From Switzerland.
Yeah, and Shihan Maria was promoted before me as well. She was promoted a year before me.
Okay.
And then we did our third dance together, Shihan Maria and I. And then I'm not sure whether I think she got her fourth dan before me as well, and then she became promoted. But I was quite a long time between third dan and fifth dan, particularly between third and fourth dan. It was quite a long time. So, but it was funny because when I was 11, I had this aspiration of being the first female Shihan. But then as soon as I got to Sandan, I never ever expected to be promoted beyond Sandan.
Really?
I think you've got some control over Sandan, haven't you? You choose to go for the grading, you choose to prepare for the grading, you choose to go in for it. So you've got some control. But after Sandan, you've got no control at all. And if I'm honest, I never, ever thought I would ever progress beyond Sandan. I was thrilled to get Sandan, but I never thought I'd progress beyond it. So every single promotion I've had since has been complete shock and honour for me.
Wicked. So
unjustified.
you said,
I would add unjustified, because you are a technical queen, and your execution of the art, or what I love about you, Janine, is you're what I would call a true definition student of the art. You love being a student, you love perfecting each technique, and I think every grading that you've received is a justified recognition of your talent and your hard work.
Yep.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
How do you, because you had two goals, being a Shihan, you obviously made that. How did you get on with being the first female knockdown fighter?
I wasn't first. No, they probably introduced it, I think, in about 1995, I think, was when they first introduced
Sounds about right.
knockdown females, something like that. Yeah, I didn't enter the first few tournaments. I think I was a little bit apprehensive when I got to it. I thought, let's see how this pans out. So I refereed a couple for the first year or two, and then I decided I had a bit of an issue in that most of you probably know that my husband's a black belt as well, and a high grade. My husband didn't want me to fight. I wanted to fight, and he didn't want me to fight because he felt I was always about 53 kilos. Was my natural weight. I'm bigger now, obviously, because I'm older. But at that time, I was about 53 kilos. So it's quite light, even for a lightweight. And I'm short, so I haven't got the range that perhaps other fighters have got. So he wasn't particularly keen. And when I decided to go for it, it was, I remember telling the fellas in my club, there's no female knockdown fighters in my club at the time. So I remember telling the fellas in the club, look, I really want to enter a knockdown tournament, but I need to be prepared. You need to help me train because Chris is really against it, but you need to help me train. And then one night after training on a Friday, we were in the bar chatting and somebody slipped up and said something about when you enter. And he sat next to me and he said, what's that? And I said, I want to enter I think it was the British Open, actually. It was the novice, though, obviously, the British Open in October. And I thought he was going to go mad. And he said, well, if you're going to go for it, you've got to be prepared. And I went, oh. Okay, and then he battered me for the next 6 months.
What a relationship!
It's funny because the last time we had a chat with Shihan Nick DaCosta, and he was the other side of the medal because his wife was also entering in tournaments and stuff like that, and he talked a bit about that, and it's very funny that Chris was a little bit the same in this story, and for you, very difficult.
The thing was, females at that time didn't even train to do the knockdown fighting, because we could never do knockdown. I used to do a bit of bag work, but I never did. We did some hard dojo sparring, but because women could never compete, you never trained in the same way. It was a completely different way of training. And I remember when, like, my first instructor, he was his name was Sensei Alan Jones, and I remember him telling me that when Sosai created the art, as far as he was concerned, the only reason women would do it is for their grace and beauty. They would never fight. It was just to enhance their grace and beauty. So I didn't win on that score either. But women were never intended to fight, you know. So it was quite a change then, because after years and years, I'd been training before I fought. I must have been about 20, 24, no, 25 perhaps when I first fought. So I'd have been training 16 years before that, but never knockdown training. So even if I was sparring, I'd always do clicker. I would do the odd bit of work on the bag, but I wouldn't be doing Staskis and things because I could never do those on the mat. Yeah. So you were doing techniques, all right, trying to get strong, but doing the techniques you were allowed to do. So it was quite different for us, quite difficult to do that transition, I think.
Yeah, I bet. And as Wesley said, Nick said something really similar, like about Sosai. He was pan against it, you know, he didn't want it. And I suppose at the point that we brought in women's knockdown, we were firmly away from the IKO anyway, so it didn't have too much of an impact in what Sosai thought about it at that point. But yeah, Nick said almost similar, and with obviously Maria fighting, and he was trying to give her advice and things like that. And I mean, you say Chris was panning you out each week, giving you some beats. I mean, I'm sure he gave you a lot of advice as well to try and help, and you know, as did everyone else.
Yeah, the difficulty I was in a dojo full of really good fighters at the time. Yeah, but they'd go so far, but they wouldn't push me to the limit. And I remember one night actually, Shihan Allen had me and Chris up fighting, and he absolutely battered me. He just kept it to me to the point that when they went into the changing room, some of the boys had to go at him and said, "That was out of order. You should not have hit your wife like that." And he said, "I've got to, because he said, you won't hit her." He said, "And that's the problem. The last thing I want is her going on that mat being unprepared." So he said, if you won't do it, I've got to do it. And he did. He really did give me quite a pummeling. But then a few weeks later, I remember being up against Sensei Steve Davis, and we were fighting. And I started halfway through the fight. He caught me, and I had tears rolling down my face. And he started to back off. So because he could see I said, "Don't back off, don't back." And he kept going. He didn't go 100%. I'm not suggesting at all, but he was going far enough that he was pushing me. Yeah. And I remember as soon as Shihan Allen shouted "Yame," he just stopped, put his arms around me, and just burst into tears himself. And he went, "That was the most horrendous thing I've ever had to do."
Oh, bless.
But we didn't have that network of females then that we could fight amongst ourselves, because there weren't any, you know. So although I wasn't the first, I was amongst one of the first.
Yeah.
I was probably two years behind, probably, because I think it was probably 18 months, 2 years of knockdown fighting, and I refereed a few when I thought, do you know what, I think I could have a go with this, and then and I tried myself.
Nice.
Fantastic. And it's something that you pick up when you speak to, you know, wonderful artists like yourself. You have that innate passion to just be better than you were yesterday. And despite having all the odds against you, you still found a way to get yourself into the female knockdown. And for that, I take my hat off to you, Janine. I really do. That is a tremendous achievement. Because there was nothing about it. There wasn't even any videos then. I doubt even did mobile phones have cameras back then? I can't remember. They did, did they? You couldn't see, you know, so what did we know? You couldn't see anything, could you? There wasn't even an internet, or maybe just.
It was just, but it would have been really low bandwidth and things like that, weren't it?
There wasn't no YouTube, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's really funny because if you think about it right now, there's so many female fighters. In every male tournament, there's female. The same tournament has female fights and stuff like that. And then I remember she and Nick saying last time, we had British Opens, and then we were doing clicker fights as well in these British Opens, and then there were no female fights. And then only in like 93, 94, 95, somewhere around that era, they did two female demo fights. I'm like, that's so crazy. It's you know, it's a totally different world, but it's it's really cool.
There used to be European Championships every year, and one year it would be female kata and men's knockdown, and then the following year they do men's kata and women's clicker. So and then the following year they go back. So you could either compete in the kata or you compete in the clicker, but you couldn't do knockdown. And when I competed in the 1987.
That's the year you won it, right?
No, 89 I won it. 87. No, sorry, you're right. 89 I won it.
Okay.
91 I did. No, 91 I won it. 89 was my first time. I was only 17.
Was that the one in Hungary that was posted up recently?
Yeah.
With the lovely hair. With the
Yeah,
lovely
Mate,
hair.
yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful, wasn't it? That
Oh.
night.
I posted that just for the hair, not for the Kata. The Kata was terrible, but the hair was amazing. But Sosai was actually at that tournament, and I am convinced, and I don't know, I've never spoken to Hanshi, but I'm convinced that Hanshi was instrumental in women fighting knockdown, because when I went to that tournament, when there was only one area, so it was a big built-up area, really hugely intimidating stadium. In fact, it's the same stadium. I think you competed in the All Kickshin World Tournament, Darren, in
2009, Hungary.
2009. You was there as well.
Yeah,
wasn't just...
and I was there as well.
Yeah, same stadium. So, but they had one area in the middle. And Sosai was there, and he was on this raised table, and he was when all the knockdown fights were going on, you had Andy Hug and you had Nick and Mick and all those fighting, fantastic fighters. It was an amazing tournament. Sosai was like intent on watching it, and then what they do like say the quarterfinals of the men's knockdown, and then they'd go to a round of female kata. And Sosai signed autographs all the way through the female kata and didn't watch a single kata. And then as soon as the men would come back on, he'd start watching again, and you'd have a line of kids waiting for autographs. And as soon as the kata would come on again, he'd start signing autographs. He wasn't interested in women at all. But Hanshi, I think, has been instrumental in putting women on a different playing field, because the one thing I can say for Hanshi is I've never felt disadvantaged in karate by the fact that I'm a female.
Yeah.
He's promoted me to go abroad and teach. When people have phoned him and said, I want an instructor to come to whatever country, it's Hanshi that has recommended me, even though I'm a female. It doesn't seem to bother him whether I'm male or female. I think that's one of the wonderful things about Hanshi. He sees talent.
Yeah, he sees worth.
Yeah, and I've never felt in any way disadvantaged by my sex in karate because of Hanshi.
That's a fantastic thing to hear. And also, I want to elaborate on just a couple of things you said earlier, because from my remembering of Alan Jones, your sensei, he was a very knowledgeable kata man. So I was going to ask you, would you say he's responsible for your execution level? Because he was I remember him being a philosopher on kata. So can you give us a bit of, go on, expand.
He was very technical, not just in kata, in all aspects of karate. He wasn't necessarily a fighter. But he studied karate. He, when he taught me a technique, he would break every single technique down, and he'd say, "What's the target area?" And then, "What's the striking area?" So if you were punching, you had to know the striking area was your first two knuckles. The target area was the solar plexus. You had to know the mechanics of the punch. So he wouldn't just demonstrate a punch and everybody copy, which is a lot of instructors' sort of styles. He'd break every single technique down and explain everything. And then he'd tell you all about the mechanics of the injury you caused as a result of that technique. And if it was, for example, kata, he'd say, right, this kata's come from the Goju-Ryu form and it's been changed. This has been added and this has been added by Sosai, but actually this was Goju-Ryu. So he was very, very knowledgeable, and he really researched karate. And then he had a very technical club. So I definitely think that my technical ability is 100% as a result of his contribution. But a lot of people who come out to that club have got very, very good technique. And I think technique is when you train, you've got to work on technique, speed, power, stamina. When you lose all those things, the stamina usually goes first, and then the speed and the power. And then the last thing to ever go is the technique.
Yeah.
That stays with you, because even if you had 10 years break from karate, the first, you get your technique it comes back quickly. It goes last and it comes back first, I think. So once you've got that grounding with the technique, I don't think it ever leaves you. As long as you've got to keep thinking about it. If you become lazy, that's when your backhand starts to slip or whatever. But as long as you're aware of how the form is done correctly, I think it's quite easy to maintain then.
Yeah, I've said similar many times to other people, and they're like, well, how do you, but I mean, obviously we all train really hard and we're all pretty fit, fortunately, in this room. Maybe not Wesley so much, but no, but I mean we are quite fit in our in our status, and everyone's like, well, how do you keep, kicking and punching and doing all this stuff for a long time? And people really often, a lot of people don't realize how much benefit that clean, efficient technique plays a part in that, because it is very, very important. And as I've said it the same as you did, it's kind of the last thing that you rely on, because you get tired, your muscles get fatigued, you kind of your brain starts maybe to wander. But as long as that is built in your muscle memory and in your back pocket all the time, you can always generate speed, power, and what feels like good stamina out of a great technique. And I mean, you've got abundance of that, which is why you're able to train really hard all the time. And
what I love about what you say is, like, a lot of people in that era, you're talking about the 80s, the early 80s, you were training, and even Jeff said this that they were training, but then they didn't even knew what they were doing. Cam said the same thing. He was like, we were doing a lot of training, and then after 17 years, the Japanese came to Australia to tell about what an uchi-uki is, or so many years, I don't know. But then only a few people who really had the instructor that told you the technical abilities and the things, that the breakdown of the techniques, that's the people we all look up to right now, like yourself, Janine. The people who are now very technical all had that very technical teacher, or that teacher that just spends a few minutes extra in teaching you that technique. And that's where you really see how important this is. And all the things you said before about the speed, power, and the technique is what's going to save you. It's going to save you.
Yeah, literally, it will save you.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, Janine, one question I've always wanted to ask, and it's very evident even in the first 20 minutes of speaking to you, your passion for that technique. What age did it happen? All right, you told me from what was it, 16, you wanted to be the first Shihan and the first female knockdown. When did you realize that you are just naturally brilliant at the execution of a correct technique? When did that moment happen for you? Was it,
I don't think it's happened yet, Carlton.
Hang on a minute. So what you're saying to me is, after multiple, 7 or 8 British titles and a World Kata Championship, you're telling me you
European.
still don't think...
European.
You still don't think that your execution level is good enough to warrant that praise?
No. I think, I don't think my technique is that, it's okay. I've got a good level of technique, but I would never put myself out there as being a fantastic tech. I think the two fellas that are sat opposite me now are far better technicians than me.
Can I just stop you there, because I will say, why do you think these two have you on for technical lessons if you're not?
Honestly,
Are you sure? I'm sorry, but if you're saying these two are really, really good, and they're asking you to coach on their show, how can you win? I'm really sorry.
He's got a point. He's got a point.
I'm not having it, Janine. I'm sorry.
I train with these twice a week now, but it was 3 times a week until they cut down the sessions. And I'm actually in awe of what they can do. And I want to be able to do a Nishida Mawashigeri like that. And I still haven't mastered a Brazilian Mawashigeri, and they did a full session on Brazilian Mawashigeris for me, and I still can't do them. But honestly, I'm determined I will be able to do Brazilian Mawashigeri one day, to do these two proud, because they spent a whole hour and a half doing Brazilian Mawashigeris, and I still can't do them. But no, I aspire to be like them. And when I'm in my dojo, like I'm at the top of the line, obviously, because of my grade, but I'm aspiring to be like everybody on my left, because they are so strong and they're so fit. And all right, they might be 20 odd years younger than me as well, which is why they're so strong and so fit. But I'm thinking, I want to be like them. I don't want to be the 49-year-old woman on the end. I want to be as good as this 24-year-old man on my left.
Hold on, so you want to be younger than what you are then, if you want to be 49.
I thought you were 33. We talked about it.
33, yeah.
But and again, I think what you've just said there is a testament, and that's why I'm so glad you're on this show, because I think people need to get an insight into what drives you, because you're obviously a very driven woman. You've got balls for the skip, if you don't mind me saying that. But also, I think your humility is it's very endearing, because you don't see what I see. So I'm going to just run you back a couple of sentences and just say one thing, and I'm going to say this very quietly. a lot of people in Kyokushin would like to do in this show, Gary, like Darren Stringer and Wesley, and they still won't get there. You're not the only one, love. And let me tell you this, coming from a lower grade point of view, your technique is on point. I would love to nail a Kata like Janine Davies. So I'm telling you, you are at the top of the level. So sometimes you can get a false picture. Don't just keep looking at Darren and Wes. They are good, but I'm telling you now, you are up there, and I cannot see why they would have you on their show if you wasn't. You have to be.
True. It's very true. We look up to you, and it's very humbling that you are in our session, and the words you always speak about us. But we look up to you because we really think you are the full package of what you should be as a Shihan, as a karateka, a male or female. It doesn't even matter. But the way you do your trainings, the way you execute techniques, the way I've been taught by you quite a few times. You've taught together with Darren abroad and stuff like that. It's amazing to see, and I think this is the passion again. It's just amazing to see the way you live for karate, or when you actually start talking about karate, or when you actually start talking about the kata. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I've been fortunate to train with you many a times and be away with you and train under you as well. And your attention, your effort, it's great. And yeah, I mean, you could say, yeah, you're in awe of us, but maybe when we're 33, we won't be able to do what you can do. So it's I think it's a two-way street here. Some of the things you do are fantastic. Okay, maybe not a Brazilian Mawashi, but there's still time on that.
Oh, I'll be able to do one. I guarantee if I'm 70, I'll be able to do a Brazilian Mawashi.
I believe you, because I tell you what, during my research, a little birdie told me, because you are so good, that you was actually part of a computer game, and I want to hear a little bit more about this. Because
I wasn't part of a computer game, but we did a demonstration. Oh God, I can't remember what world. There was a European knockdown tournament in Cardiff. I can't even remember which year it was. Early 90s it would have been. Mm. And a few of us wanted to put on a demonstration, and we didn't know what to do, so we decided to do Street Fighter, the video game, and I was Chun-Li. So there was I was fighting E Honda, who was the sumo wrestler. I gotta say, it was great fun because we spent hours in my lounge playing the game to see how the different characters reacted amongst. So when I was looking at the techniques that Chun-Li would do, because obviously she's got a certain catalogue of techniques that she would perform, and look how she would react to E Honda. And it's really funny, actually. I broke my nose practicing for that, because one of the things that Chun-Li can do, which Janine Davies cannot do, is a backward flick-flack. And one of the people who was really instrumental in putting this demo together was Tracy Baker, she was known as then, Tracy Taylor now. And Tracy got together with us, and she was helping us with a lot of the work. And we went to Alcan Sports Centre, and I said, right, I need to learn how to do a backward flick-flack, because that's what Chun-Li does when she fights. So we had me on the stairs, and she said, right, you've got to throw your legs up as quickly as possible now, and I'll just flick you to give you a bit of assistance to go over. And I flicked my leg up so much, I kneed myself in the nose and broke my
oh my God.
This is gold. This is gold.
So we dropped that move never appeared in the demonstration.
No, you didn't want to repeat it?
No.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to try that one in public.
Well, Carlton's a gymnastics instructor, so I'm sure he can help you out with this.
I will show you how to do a tuck back now, definitely, and a back.
I don't think so. But it was great fun doing it. We did it at the European Championships at that tournament. And we had really good feedback about it. And we were asked to perform it again then at the British Open. So I think the European Championships was in the spring. And then we were asked to do it at Crystal Palace in October then for the British Open. So we did it again.
Is there any video footage of that, Janine, about it?
Yes, there's some on YouTube, yeah.
Oh, is there? Oh, I've got to see that, because, at this moment in time, Wes he's in the computer game as well. What game are you doing at this moment? What are you doing?
I can't say. I can't say.
He's under contract.
Yeah.
Listen, then I do apologize if this.
No, it's okay. No, I'm a character. I'm the base of a character in a game they are developing right now, and this, I was in the 1C. This was actually one of the coolest things I've ever done. It was so cool to do your movements, see the movement straightly on a computer in a character based, which is this is gonna be in the game, and when people are playing this on a console or on a PC or a laptop, they are gonna use my moves. How cool is that? It's wicked.
You might have long hair and like a dress, but it'll be you.
Yeah, well, that's me on a Saturday, so
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, Wesley. Nothing wrong with that. If that's what you like.
A little gay is okay, eh?
No, but I mean that demonstration was good though. I've seen it, and I think Jan, you sent it to us on WhatsApp or something.
Yeah. I got the footage, which is really good. It's amazing.
Check it out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, all right, I'll have to see that. And again, I think the reason for my slip up earlier, we're getting the European Championship to the World Championship. Again, a lot of people might not know, but I think it's very worth documenting. Your courage, your passion is evident, Janine, but a lot of people might not know that you suffered a very severe injury in a World Kata final, which probably prevented you, carrying on. Can you talk us through that? And also what I'm really intrigued about is how did you recover and then still maintain the level that you do?
Yeah.
It was the 1999 World Tournament in Switzerland, and I was in the team event, and the team was me, my husband, and Shihan Janine Davies.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Good team. Great team. Jeez.
Yeah, it was a good team. And then we had, obviously I was in the individuals, and I was doing well right up until the final. I won the first round, won the second round. I was in the lead in the final. But they took 4 through to the final, and they did the team final first, and we were doing Seipai in the final. And as I did the Toby Maigeri and the Kiai, I just ended up on the floor. And I've got to be honest, there was no immediate pain. I'm just on the floor thinking, what am I doing down here?
And remember, this is in the team, right? So the other two are just carrying on.
Yeah, Yeah. So I tried to jump up. I thought, what the hell am I doing? So I jumped up and I tried to just join in because, again, we were in the lead up until the final. We were quite clearly in the lead. So as long as we did a good kata in the final, we were probably the favourites to win. But we ended up on the floor. I jumped up and I thought, just try and salvage it. But as I jumped up, I just collapsed again back on the floor. I just could not, my leg was stuck in a bent position. So when I tried to put my foot on the floor, it just would not straighten. And I fell back on the floor. So the two fellas kept going. I could see Sunil looking over his, he was doing this. What are you doing on the floor? So Sunil stopped. My husband, the true professional, did not stop. He just kept going. And just thought, she's on the floor, we go in. And,
leave him behind. It's not every man for himself.
Yeah, so we got to the end of the kata, and I just couldn't stand at all because my leg was stuck in this bent position. So Hanchi actually walked onto the mat. He physically picked me up and he carried me off the mat in his arms, and then I couldn't compete in the final of the individuals because I couldn't. What I did was I had a bucket handle tear of the cartilage, and the cartilage was stuck in the knee joint, which was stopping it from straightening. But when I had surgery then to repair the tear, they realised I had a complete break of the anterior cruciate ligament as well. And I didn't have enough theatre time for them to do that, so I had to go out, have physiotherapy, and then go back a few months later to try and get it done then. But when I went back, I had scar tissue, so they couldn't do it. So they just had to get rid of the scar tissue and send me off again.
I had the exact same thing when I was preparing for the World Tournament in 2013, the knockdown World Tournament. The same thing happened. Only when I was doing a push-up, stood up, and then it went. The same thing where the cartilage was taking the bend. Yeah, it's really painful.
So maybe their technique isn't as good as we thought, Carlton. I'm just kidding.
As Mr. Never Injured.
It took me 10 years to watch that video back because somebody had it on video and I just couldn't watch it because it was heartbreaking, and I watched it 10 years later and you can see exactly what happened in the injury. So now when I teach that kata, I'm really careful to explain how you land, because it was to do the way, because you land in a so you jump and you land in a kibidachi. And what I did was I landed with my foot that way, and the top of my leg went like that, and the bottom went that way. And
so
you can
it was the back leg. It was the back leg.
Back leg,
went.
yeah, the right leg. Yeah, so it was.
Sounds horrific, don't it?
Oh, it was awful. Really, most painful injury I've ever had. It was awful, and I didn't recover. I still haven't recovered from it. I still get trouble now when you're doing like a Shihan Janine. I struggle sometimes. I'll have a couple of days where I'm fine, and then other days where I'm in an awful lot of discomfort when I train. And I think actually that is the problem with the Brazilian Muashigeri, because I can do Chudan Muashigeris, I can do Jodan Muashigeris, but I've never been able to do a low kick since. And I think it's because you bring the leg over and down. I think it's that motion, whereas when you do a Chudan,
that makes perfect biomechanical sense.
Whereas sort of flicking down, and I think that's why I struggle with it. But I will be able to do one day.
Definitely.
But even if you don't, I would suggest that, because if I remember rightly, again, your other knee, didn't you, because it maybe compensating for the load, now understanding biomechanics a lot more, being a gymnastics coach, your other knee went, is that right?
Yeah, that was about 7 or 8 years later. I tore the cruciate on the other knee. So I've got 2 cruciate reconstructions, both knees.
So yeah, I think you give yourself a squeeze if you can't do a Brazilian Muashigeri. Do you know what I mean? I'm just saying. You know?
No, there's no can't, right? Just some things are more difficult to achieve than others.
I agree with you there, Janine, and I think you are made of that stuff, and hence why I'm interviewing you with pleasure. And it's something that you just touched on, and I don't know if anyone has asked you, and I hope you don't mind me asking, but the psychological impact, which was worse, the pain, the physical impact, or the psychological impact of obviously getting to that level? You're injured in the team final before you can represent yourself in the individual final, which I'm pretty sure you would have won that as well. So, you know, talk me through that experience, if it's an experience you want to talk about, because it's good to learn from you, the people at the highest level.
It was obviously very disappointing because it was the first ever World Kata tournament for IFK. So I was bitterly disappointed, but I was thrilled because the person who ended up winning was my British teammate. And if I wasn't going to win, the person I wanted to win was my British teammate. So there was, you know, it was disappointing for me, but great for her. You know, she might have won it anyway. If I hadn't had that injury, she might have won it.
Yeah.
So there was, you know, to me, the best thing, next best thing happened. And I had lovely, lovely words of support at the time. And that was quite nice, actually. The number of people who came up to me that night and the following day before I flew home with lovely messages and about my performance and what they believed would have happened had I continued. So that was nice, but it was bitterly disappointing. And I think I realised quite quickly after that, because it was such a bad injury, that I would never compete at the same level again. And that was worse. So that put an end to my knockdown career as well. Because in fact, 6 weeks after that, I was due to compete at the Welsh Open, and I couldn't compete in that, obviously, because of my knee. So it was disappointing that it stopped my Kata competition, but also my knockdown competition. But as well as even training was difficult to start, because I remember a friend of mine said, I remember the first time I ever met you, he said, I just thought, who was this woman? You turned up in a gi to train with a walking stick. And I taught at the front on a walking stick, and I put my stick down and I demonstrated an axe kick, and I picked my stick back up, and but I continued training, but I couldn't do what I wanted to do, but I could continue doing something. I could continue teaching, but I was a long time out really where I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And I think that was one of the reasons when Hanshi asked me to become the chief referee, I knew I was never going to be competing at the same level because I couldn't do the same kicks. I still struggle now with pivoting on the one leg worse than the other. At the time, it was my right leg I struggled to pivot on. Now, actually, my left leg is worse than my right leg. But I couldn't kick in the same way as I used to kick. And some of my stances weren't quite as good. I really struggled with them. So when Hanshi asked me to become the chief referee then, I thought, well, something different. I'll try it for a year or two, see how it goes. And
and that was like 20 odd years ago, right?
Yeah, 1999. So
it was 1999. Okay, I thought it was maybe
2000. Perhaps he asked me. Yeah. It was 99, 2000, because it was almost immediately after.
That's a role model for making the best out of a very, very bad situation, because obviously you had some different ideas, and hopefully the people who are listening to this take something out of this, because this is really important. Obviously you had all the skills and all the rights to become a world champion at that time. Don't want to take anything away from Emma Molden, who won it then. But you had all the ingredients of becoming there. Then also all the ingredients to maybe doing it back to back. And all of this didn't happen, and still look where you are, teaching abroad. Lots of people love to work with you, to get taught by you, and that is something. Well, I think we've got to be complimentary about that, because that's amazing.
Very, very well said, Wes. I would say we can learn a lot from Janine. Her work ethic, her training ethic, her courage, her attitude, like you just said, her will to never say never.
Yeah, bounce back ability is an incredible thing, you know, because I mean, there's been plenty of people that have had knockbacks, you know, losses, and they've been extremely talented. And not to say that obviously, Jan, you're not, because I think we all know that you are. But it's very easy for people to get very discouraged from that drawback, that negative value that's clearly been instilled after a tragic event like that, to bounce back. And I mean, who knows? Maybe had you have won, maybe you had carried on competing, maybe you wouldn't be at the level you are now at your age. You know, maybe you would have, you know, not have felt that need to carry on continuing improving, because it's very easy to be complacent for a lot of people.
Yeah,
you know,
that's very true. I have one more question about that world tournament. What would the kata be that you would have showed in the final for your?
That's easy. Safe bag, my favorite.
So the same kata,
it would have been the same as in the.
So the thing is, even if they would have done the individuals first and then the team, it could have happened in that same time, because obviously the knee wasn't 100% fit at that time. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. And then with the intensity you went in there in the team, but then also in the individuals, it might have happened in the same way, but then in the individuals.
Yeah, possibly.
Who knows? I mean, it could have been a factor of many things. I mean, obviously, Wes, when you did yours in Hungary, and Richard Taneo done his knee at the very same tournament. That's two knees at the same tournament. Now that's more than a coincidence. You're starting to think of, is the mats, is the purchase on the floor the cause of this, and I suppose we will never ever know what the cause of your injury was, Jan, unless the doctor turned around and said, yeah, it was injured before and this was just the final straw, if you know what I mean. But
but I still think, even though I wouldn't wish the injury on my worst enemy, I still think it's part of your legacy, Janine, and I think it just reinforces your courage. And, you know, I'd also like you to elaborate on your 21 refereeing career, because to me, again, you've excelled in the refereeing and you are highly regarded as one of the most, or one of the best referees. You know, talk me through that, because you've had the emotion, all right, you might not be able to execute your skills like you want, but you probably threw your passion into the refereeing. How did that feel? Where has that taken you? Elaborate on that career.
It was quite bizarre, actually, because I became chief referee and I'd never refereed a kata tournament.
And at this stage, you're fairly young as well, right?
Yeah, well, 99, I would have been 27.
Yep.
So 28. Yeah. So I was probably 28 when Hanshi asked me to become the chief referee.
Oh.
And as I said, I competed at every kata tournament that I could, so I'd never refereed. I did my refereeing exam in the Shihan Janine Davies, and I passed it because I had to get a refereeing qualification, because in those days you had to be a judge in 4 disciplines and a referee in 1 to go for black belt. So I was referee in or a judge in all disciplines at 15, because you had to be. But I think I probably did a tournament when I was 15 in order to get the qualification, and then didn't compete. So I did the first few British, and that was quite intimidating in some ways, because I just thought, oh, you know, there's all these higher grade people that are here and I'm telling them what they can and can't do. But then I remember the first world tournament, which was 2003 in Poland, that I was the chief referee, and Hanshi said, you know, the chief referee at the world tournament? And I went, huh? Pardon? He said, yeah. He said, you're the IFK chief referee. And I just thought I was the BKK chief referee. He said, no, you're the IFK chief referee. So you've got to go to, and I was just, Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And that was a real challenge, because obviously I was having to, I'd never been to an international referees course, so I didn't know what to expect to know what to deliver.
Yeah.
So I designed my own course, not knowing really what to expect. And then, another reason why Hanshi's been so supportive of me, he came in on the course and stood at the back for the 3 hours I did the referees course. And there was quite a lot of challenge from people, because I was this young female from Britain that probably didn't know much as far as they were concerned. There was a lot higher grades than me there, and there was quite a lot of challenge. And Hanshi would just say, Janine's the chief referee.
Wow.
Janine says it's that way. This is how it goes. So it was quite a sobering experience being the chief referee. And the tournament went well, and it was on the day, I remember all the way through just feeling sick, and by the end of the day just thinking, thank goodness that's over and the right people have won. Because it is a panic.
Yeah.
Did you because at that point, obviously it was like you said, I mean, 1999 happened. Yep, let's wash our hands of it, but the next one that comes along, in your mind, you probably maybe have been thinking, I could have kind of competed at this one. Did you kind of have any, not animosity, that's probably the wrong word, but do you wish that you was able to kind of compete there as well? Or, because I mean, I definitely get it at all the tournaments. I wish I was competing. I wish I was doing this, I'm not sure if that ever really goes away, but.
Yeah, I physically couldn't have, because in the 2003 World Tournament, Hanshi came in, when we were on this referee course, he just threw a low baller in right at the end of the referee course. He said, right, tomorrow at the tournament, I want all the referees to perform a kata
Demonstration. Yeah.
And it was, you are? And I had to all of a sudden get all these referees to practice a kata together in formation and make sure they were all the same. And I had taken my gi to the course with me, because obviously to demonstrate that on the course. And I so much wanted to be at the front of the triangle that were doing the, and I physically knew I couldn't, there's no way could I have got through a kata at that point, because my knee was so bad. I couldn't perform a kata, so I had to stand at the back and watch while they all did it. And in fact, somebody else wore my gi that day, because Julie Nadeau, she arrived in Poland for a suitcase. Unfortunately, she's very small, and I had a gi, so she wore my gi and my belt.
Probably the only person on that tournament that could have worn your gi.
Right.
Apart from maybe the little kids that were running around asking for autographs.
Yeah. By the way, is that the same tournament where they made a DVD also of the referee course?
Oh, I don't know. I've never seen it.
I think there was a
There's definitely a DVD of the tournament. I think I have that somewhere.
There is a DVD of a tournament, and I'm really glad that we touched on this, because at the time, I think it was the 2003 World Tournament, where you were teaching all of the referees, going through all the katas, and that DVD in the dojo where I trained was on day and night, where we went over all of the katas in the way you were teaching it to them. And I remember there were like the Russians in the higher grade Russians were in that same class and asking you a lot of questions, and you fired back at every question there was. And there was like, I think this was 2003, 2004. I've never met you before, but I was like, wow, she's amazing. You know what I mean? This is really good. This is good stuff. We need this if we wanna evolve in IFK the Netherlands. This is what we got to follow. So that. I think that is the 2003 World Tournament.
I've never seen that. So if you've got a copy, send me a copy. I'd love to. Although I'd probably cringe watching it, but I've never seen that.
Yeah, that is wicked. Yeah, I think Claudia, because she was in that tournament. Claudia from Holland. She actually had that. I'm gonna send her a message.
Yeah.
She still got that.
I'm gonna send her a message.
Yeah.
It was good. It was an intimidating experience, I think, and something completely different to anything I'd ever done. And I've got to be honest, it's got no easier. So I've done, I think, 4 world tournaments now, and they're all It's awful. I just can't wait for it to be over, because you worry that something's going to go wrong, and you've had to qualify somebody at a world tournament, which was horrendous, having to qualify somebody. But at the end of the day, the rules are there, and you've got to stick by the rules. But it's really it is nerve-wracking. And then in the one world tournament, the program went wrong. The computer program went wrong, so I had to physically add up the scores of the finals, and I wouldn't allow them to announce the scores until I'd manually added up the scores, because we found a glitch in the program. That was the 2014 in Belgium.
Belgium, yeah.
Yeah, and I sat there. If you ever see a video of that, you'll see me. They're like scribbling and then shouting, and they weren't allowed to announce it. So they were doing it on the computer, but they weren't allowed to announce what the computer said until I double checked it manually, because so things happen, in world tournaments that you can't control and you just got to deal with. But ultimately, you're the person who's responsible if anything goes wrong for one of the competitors or one of the officials. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's the competitors you're worried about, because whether it's knockdown, cricket, kata, anything, the people who are competing at that level have put an awful lot of investment into getting to be as good as they can, and they deserve to be rewarded appropriately. So whether they deserve to come last or whether they deserve to come first, but you need to make sure you're fair, and it's quite a responsibility. It's much easier to compete because you're only worried about yourself when you compete. You don't hear what's going on around you, but when you're a chief referee of a tournament of that level, it's everything. You're just thinking, everything's got to be right for those competitors, because you want the right people to win. Yeah,
it's funny that you said in Belgium that the scoring card or the scores they weren't right. It happened when Darren was competing.
I knew. Thinking, honestly, I knew you brought this up myself.
How is it possible that Darren Stringer scores 40 points and the rest 28, and they were actually right?
It was a glitch in the program just for the team event. It was only the individuals are fine.
It weren't me. It weren't me.
But every single result was double checked, so they were right.
Janine, I think, do you know what's so lovely about this conversation is, I think it's very clear to most people now, if they weren't, your adaptability. What's so clear is not just the courage and the heart, but I think you could throw yourself into any situation and excel because of the positive attitude or positive mental attitude that you bring to it. So with that in mind, with your global experience from competing and refereeing, is there anything you think that we as Kyokushin could do, or, when young kids are going abroad, or what we could learn, or any advice to how we can improve? We know we've got this new online thing going on, but what else, how could Kyokushin improve? What experiences could you share with us that could make us a better style?
I think I've learned more from failures in my life and in my karate than I've ever learned from anything positive. So if I was to win a tournament, you don't then go back and analyze your performance in that tournament because you've won. So you're elated and you're just thinking, I was brilliant. But as soon as you don't do as well as you were expecting, that's when you start analyzing, well, what could I have done better in order to have won, or in order to have done better? And I think you learn so much more through failures in life than you do through success. So when I get students that perhaps feel that they have failed, it's not a failure. It's just something they need to get over in order to get to that next level. And I think the first time I appreciated that was when I failed my black belt. I was very young then. But I would say that was probably the most significant thing that has ever happened to me in my karate career. And I think that is really what changed my positive mental attitude then. That failing of the black belt was the most significant thing. But all the things that have gone wrong through my personal life and through karate, I think have made me a stronger person. So that's the thing I say to people, sometimes you get people, we've got some really good fighters in our tournament, and I've got one student in my club that he's quite hard on himself if he doesn't do as well as he thinks he should do. And I keep saying to him, don't be hard on yourself. What you just need to do is, that's a stepping stone. Analyze what you didn't do as well as you should have done, and that's what's going to push you. But it's those that give up. When it becomes difficult, you don't give up.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. I think it's funny when you get a load of karate that start, kids particularly, you'll get 10 kids start karate the same day, and there'll be one or two that really shine because they've got something. I put money on they're the ones that become black belts. That little scrawny little kid on the end that's really struggling to do anything because they're all gangly.
Pointing at Wes when you're saying that. Literally on my screen, when you're going like this, it's Wes.
Hey, I was never a groiny dangling kid.
Yeah, of course not.
But it's usually the one that really has to struggle from the beginning, that isn't the naturally talented one, that ends up getting further, because when obstacles come in their way, they've always had obstacles. Starting karate was never easy for them. Yeah. Doing their first grading was never easy for them. They might have failed twice before they passed.
Is this also because of, this where we go back to the start of this conversation, where you say, you were the fat little kid who didn't like exercise? Is that where you relate yourself to that student in the class as well, and that you actually think, hey, this was me.
I think
25
so.
Years ago.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think I sort of connect them, but I think they are just the children that end up progressing, because, as I said quite early on, somebody who comes in with natural ability can get a green belt just on natural ability and be lazy, particularly juniors, because you're not looking for the same sort of mental attitude for juniors. You're looking that they can do a good technique and they can, they'll get through the grading well. But then they get a green belt, and it gets hard for everybody at green belt. But that person who's got natural ability hasn't found it hard until that point. They've sort of just worked their way through it. But the kid that started and has always had difficulty with coordination, and perhaps difficulty because they're overweight, so they haven't got the stamina perhaps when they started, they've always had that difficulty. So when it gets to green belt and it gets hard, they don't see that big step all of a sudden. They just keep going in the same mentalities they have. And so I think that's the thing, is everything in life, I'm a great believer in fate, in all aspects of life. Everything happens for a reason. And I'm not a religious person necessarily, but I do think that everything that comes your way is there for a reason, and you will learn something. And it may take you 10 years to realise, actually, that thing that happened 10 years ago is now a positive. Because sometimes things will really cut you to the core and really hurt you, bereavement and things like that. And at the time when you're experiencing it, you can't see a way out of that. It will only ever be a negative. But actually, 10 years down the line, you may be living your life slightly differently because that incident that happened 10 years before that caused you that pain. So I really do think things happen for a reason. And I just say to my students, don't worry about winning. You just do your best. And if you don't win, it'll come.
Yeah. I think the going back to your comment about, not necessarily the talented person that will continue on. I think it's because of the sense of achievement of that person who's struggling, gets it a lot earlier on. For a talented person, you just think, like you say, it just is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. And then eventually they're going to be like, oh, well, I've had this success that I kind of took for granted all the way up till now. Whereas that little kid that struggled, he's been like, yes, I did it. I passed that grade. I really didn't expect to. And then, he may have failed one, but because he's kind of always felt that struggle, as you say, I think it's a lot easier for him mentally, because mentally he's always been trying. You know what I mean? It is. I agree that most of the talented people, they don't make it, because I'm sure we've all had this, but I had like some incredible footballers at my school when I was like in secondary school, so like between the ages of 12 to 16, and a couple of them you think you probably could be pretty decent level even at this age. You were looking at people, but they just wasted the natural talent, and unfortunately it is a waste, because many people that really, really tried hard would love to be able to do the things that the likes of you, Janine, can do now. Okay, maybe you wasn't the most talented person to start off with, you say, but I'm pretty sure people would go, yeah, I'll take that talent now.
I think that's where you really hit it with the right comment, because the talented people they don't really have to work hard to get there at that stage. Where the people who don't have the talent and really have to go there and get there on their mentality, they then sort of get talented because of the mentality. And then,
they build the character on the way.
They build the character on the way,
100%.
and then you're like, okay, so this is the things I have to put in, the things I have to leave out to become what I become or want to become. And then the talented people, they just, they do something, it works out, they be like, all right, okay, I like this. But then they actually have to work for something, and they be like, hold on, I don't like this. Why do I have to suddenly work hard and make choices and not live life to the fullest, or drink every weekend, or go crazy, or do all sorts of stuff instead of really, putting yourself in there and work hard. So
it's a good point. Actually, I got a question off of what you just said there, Wes, to Jan, because I mean, you've had a slightly different career path than maybe myself and Wes did, because you had that tragic injury, and obviously women weren't allowed to fight at the age maybe when you would have approached 18. But I mean, did you kind of, were you really strict in like your outside life as well as a result of karate, even though you didn't maybe have the knockdown career that at that time was available to everybody else that is now? Did you make those choices not to go out and socialize with friends because you were interested in training 5-6 times a week, etc.?
I was tempted to say no, but actually I think, I did, because the area where I lived, I live in the South Wales Valley. It's quite a deprived area. A lot of kids, when I was sort of 14, 15, 16, a lot of kids just hanging on the streets, not really doing anything, just hanging about. And I remember making a conscious choice when I was about 14. I'd started hanging around the streets, and not really, do I want to go to training tonight, or would I rather hang out with my mates? And I remember making a conscious choice at the age of about 14, 15, thinking, no, I can do one or the other, and I'm going training. So I did make that choice then. I think when I was training, when I wanted to fight, I really, really changed sort of the way I ate, the way I didn't drink, in order to train. But I think I've had quite a balanced life, really, because even now I'm terrible. I finished training with you on a Tuesday and Thursday, and first thing I do is open a glass of wine. So I've got that. I like to think I train hard and I play hard. So, I
thought you had a rosé bottle in the swigging during the lesson, personally.
I'm at that age now. I'm not competing. I train because I love training. It's my passion, and it's not like I've got to be at my peak fitness or whatever. So if I won't have a glass of wine tonight, I'm not going to stop myself having a glass of wine, because I'll still be there tomorrow, pumping out the press-ups with you. But perhaps I won't, I wouldn't be able to fight or whatever, but I'm not going to fight at this age. So, so I think I have made conscious choices through my life. I think now I'm probably, even though I still love to train as much as I ever did, I eat what I want, I drink what I want, and I worry about that after.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that's just natural when you get a bit older anyway. I think we all need to realise that a sportsman has a limited shelf life. In unless you're maybe a snooker player or a darts player, it might be a little bit different, but which you can drink in those sports, I might add, Jan. So maybe you might want to adopt it.
Snooker tomorrow.
But I mean, conscious decision is not going to be necessarily a lifetime decision. We all love training. We all love doing this. But me and Wesley, we don't drink lots, but we eat pretty much what we want when we want. Don't worry about it too much. I think it's a good life. It's a good life choice that we made overall.
If we go back to that part, how did you prepare yourself for the World Tournament, the Kata World Tournament? Because obviously we had a few guests who did big tournaments. Nick did the Open World Tournament in fighting, so we asked him the question. But preparing yourself for Kata tournaments is a lot different than preparing yourself for a knockdown tournament. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to work less hard.
No,
it's just a very, very different way. Can can you, maybe tell us a little bit about your preparation for that?
Mirrors are the best thing ever when you're practicing kata, because you will be your own worst critic. So you look yourself in the mirror and think, oh, that stance isn't good enough. So you'll critique yourself more than anyone else. You can watch yourself on, as it was when I was competing, mobile phones weren't the same as they are now, unfortunately. So my husband was really good with me, because I'd get him to come and watch me, and obviously his kata is very, very good as well. So he'd be critiquing me all the time. I would get people in the dojo, any grade. I would every session say, right, I'm going to get up to front, I'm going to do certain katas, and I want you to give me feedback. And it can be quite difficult sometimes for like green and brown belts to feel that they're confident enough to say that Kibadachi wasn't really good. But what I say to them, you may not know Seipai, but you know if a Kibadachi is a correct Kibadachi, if my feet are sticking out. So it doesn't matter you don't know the kata, you can still critique me. So I think getting critique off other people has been the biggest thing for my training. But I would train an awful lot on my own, in front of mirrors, and watch myself, and then change the angle, and so that I'm always facing the mirrors, so that I can watch myself. And then you're sort of analysing exactly where your body is, where your hand is right back. And yeah, that's why a couple of years ago, because I tend not to, I don't practice kata very often now, because whenever now we don't, if we do kata, they'll say, Janine, can you get out the front? And I'll be teaching. So although I join the classes for an awful lot of the sessions, as soon as it comes to kata, I'm out the front teaching. So I don't get to practice. And a few years ago, I was actually practicing. Shihan Allen was taking the class, and we did kata, and we got mirrors in our dojo, which was really good. And I thought, oh, that Kibadachi isn't as low as it should be, and my backhand isn't as far back as I thought. It's the laziness creeping forward, So I decided to enter a tournament then, just to make myself focus on my own kata. So I didn't want anyone to see me enter in a tournament. So I entered a Shin Kyokushin tournament, not an IFK tournament, where I thought nobody would know me, and it was abroad. And as it was hundreds of people I knew there.
Everybody knew you.
Everybody knew me, yeah. And Darren ended up being there coaching me as well. So, but no, I did that because I could see that my own level, my standards were going, because I just wasn't doing it. I was saying, I just wasn't doing. And then I was becoming lazy. So I thought, well, for myself, I need to enter some. And I hadn't entered a tournament for 10 years before that, or 9 years.
I was just about to say that every 10 years you enter one. So
yeah, every 10 years.
We're looking forward to 2029.
Yeah. If there's a veterans category somewhere, I'll be there. Yeah, so no, I did. Because I finished competing in 99. Then I competed again in 2009. So I didn't compete for 10 years. And then I competed again in 2008, I think it was, when I went to the Diamond Cup in Belgium.
Yeah, it was 2019, because I won the male diamond that year in Kata. Right. I think you were in that same tournament. That was really good. Yeah. So 2029 then.
Yeah.
2029, yeah. Watch your space.
Yeah, it's going to be good, because you're going to be doing lots of Brazilian Mawashi Giris in your katas then.
Yeah, a nice little roll through in Garryu, maybe.
Well, I would like to conclude with this, because this is my, not really even a question. It's been a pleasure, Janine, because I've learned so much. And I think what I pick up from you is you've got to set yourself personal goals. You never say never. When things get difficult, you still carry on. And you're not only this, I'm going to say this from a personal point, behind the scenes, you're one of the nicest people I've ever met in Kyokushin. If anyone's ever fought in any tournament down in Wales, you would always look after us at your own abode, which is just an amazing thing to say. And I've been honoured. I'm just honoured to sit here and have the pleasure to get the experience out of a brain like yours that has done so much, worked so hard, and you've got a massive legacy in Kyokushin. Whether you agree with my polite statement or not, it's not for you to say, because that's what I'm saying. And I'm sure there's plenty others in Kyokushin that are saying the same thing. But to you, I just thank you for allowing me the pleasure to learn again from someone who knows what they're doing.
Thank you very much. And thank you for listening to me.
Oh, my pleasure.
No, it's not a problem at all. It's always interesting to speak to you. And just a couple of snippets of information that people may not have picked up on. You have similarities to a few very, very famous people in Kyokushin, to be fair. And they may not know this, but, you and Jeff both weren't interested in karate. You and Jeff both went to karate because of your siblings. You and Hanshi both failed your black belt gradings. you and Jeff, I think you said you were the youngest sensei at that point by like, I don't know, a few months or something to at that point.
Jeff had been 31 and I was 21.
Yeah. See, so, and I think you were, I don't know, 36 or something when you made a Shihan, and Jeff was 32. So, you know, you're in some pretty good company in your stats that you're achieving. I mean,
I just throw in, she's had a couple of kids as well, Dee. She's raised a family during all this time as well.
Yeah. I got a couple of kids as well.
And to talk about the busy job and
a lawyer,
everywhere, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Little legal beagle over here.
If I'm a woman, I can multitask. I'm fine.
Well, this is a theory that's not yet proved. It's a theory that's not yet proved. No, but I mean, yeah, I know you've got a very humble attitude about yourself, and I think that's probably a good thing. But you know, believe when people say, you know, you are mustard. You know, you've got a great temperament, a great work ethic, and a fantastic technique. And you know, whether you looking up to other people, I think you'll find that as many people are looking up to you. Maybe not in height, but and I can say that the giant that I am, you know,
as a role model. Definitely, I would say she's one of the best role models in Kyokushin. There's no ethos or ethic about Janine that isn't worth following. You know, every aspect, as you've heard tonight, I think a definite great role model. Irrespective that you're a woman that's achieved that, I'm looking at just as in Kyokushin as a technician. I think
100%.
For sure.
Yeah. Is there anything you would like to say as some last words, Janine, for this KRTalks?
Thank you for inviting me on. I feel extremely humbled to be stepping in the footsteps of Shihan Cameron Quinn, Shihan Jeff Wowbrow, and Shihan Nick DaCosta, and then you've got me. So I'm not sure where that went wrong, but but thank you very much. I am really, really humbled, and I'd just like to thank you two, really, because as I've said on many occasions, you two have kept me sane over the last 12 months. I absolutely enjoy every single session that I attend. I never come from there thinking, wish I hadn't gone tonight. And this is my home office I'm sat in at the moment. I've been working from home for a year and I'm going stir crazy. And sometimes I'm looking at my clock thinking, it's 27 minutes past 6 and training starts in 3 minutes. And I'm literally boom, boom, run upstairs and training. And as soon as I've done my training with you, the world is a much better place. So thank you both very much, because you have kept me sane, and I'm sure there's lots of people who join your sessions regularly that have the same sentiments as I have.
Oh, thanks. That's really nice to hear.
Thank you so much for these words. I will do the last words then for this podcast. There's not a lot which I can say when I'm not gonna say the same thing as what Darren and Carlton just said. But yeah, it's been a big pleasure. It's been a big pleasure to get to know you a few years, well, maybe a bit longer, but a few years back, getting taught by you, seeing the knowledge and the brain of and the passion and the love you have for Kyokushin. The fact that you are one of the few people who are actually the student for life, and it's just really, really good to have this chat with you, and you should be in the line where we put you, in all the things you did, in all the things you've achieved, and you know, the role model you are. There are so many people in the world that look up to you. Again, not in height, but they, you know, if you look at like people in Canada, Israel, Holland, USA, all over the world, they know Shihan Janine. I mean, you've been to the Belgium winter camp for what, 20 odd years or something now. I don't even know. It's been quite a few times, in all fairness, and that is for a reason. It's not when you touch base in life. We're gonna see you a lot more than only once. So thanks again for all the things you said. Thanks again for being here with us, and we can't wait to see you tomorrow again. That's gonna be. Before we go off, thanks again to all the supporters. Thanks again for all the for all the people who train with us, who are there with us for the last 12 months, because it's already a year. We've done so much, but we can only do this with your support. Hopefully, this again was a great KRTalks, and you are hopefully you enjoyed yourself listening to the four of us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Oh, and please like and subscribe.
Oh, like and subscribe. Yeah.
Like and subscribe, and we'll see you all soon.
That's good. And that's a wrap.